It's interesting actually, because you mentioned like the relationship between your physique and your health.
This is why I said that carbs will make you like more relaxed and calm. 99.9% of people are training for looks.
What's up guys, Jordan here. So today we're joined by Manusos, and Manusos is my health optimization and performance coach. We've been working together for the last few months, and I truly thought I understood everything when it came to my diet, my nutrition, my habits, my routine, until I met this guy who really came into my life at a time when I was probably not performing at my best in the business and not actually feeling my best mentally. And so I really wanted to get everything in check. And honestly, like, man, you changed my life. So I wanted to facilitate this video today so you guys can really get an inside understanding of how you can optimize your health and how you can optimize your entire being for focus within your business, so you really can become an animal when it comes to self-optimization. So, dude, thank you for doing this. You've come all the way over from Greece, so it's wicked. It's nice to see you in the flesh as well.
It's crazy, man. It's really awesome to see you here in person, and finally, after working together for like past 3 months or so, yeah, man, it's great.
Nice, man. Can you give everyone a bit of an intro of like what brought you to doing what you do? Because I think it's just quite unique, especially for like a young guy as well. There's not really so many people that do it.
Yeah, so to give you guys a bit of a context on what I do and how did I get started on this, I actually did an attempt to start a coaching, to coaching people back in 2018. That went horribly wrong. I had like a client or two at the time. And then like 2 or 3 years ago, I started coaching like fitness-based transformation-based coaching. But then after doing that for a while, that didn't really resonate with me because you don't really, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say here, but you don't really have an impact on your health just by transforming your physique. What I mean here is that yes, you might look shredded, you might look buff, you might put on size, but if you're not taking other aspects of, if other aspects of your health, like your sleep, your microbiome, your hormone optimization by sunlight and everything that pretty much we've been working on together, if these things are not intact, that's not really making you healthier in a bigger way, if that makes sense, of course, right?
It's interesting actually, because you mentioned like the relationship between like your physique and your health, and it's something that I have never worked out for health, like ever, like as like a young guy. Like I don't know what it's like in Greece, but the culture in the UK around working out, especially for men, is like you work out to look good and that's it. Like as a young man anyway, it's very rare that like guys are working out just for their health, and let alone like their optimization, their health optimization when it actually comes to their business and their ability to perform mentally. Like I didn't even really understand the relationship between physical health and mental health and your ability to stay focused. Yeah, totally. Everywhere. That's everywhere. Even where I'm at, you see people just training and taking roids just to go like, for example, New Year's, people are gonna start training mostly like 3 or 4 months prior to summertime. Everybody's gonna start hopping on juice and shooting themselves and like getting shredded just to go to the beach for a month or two and then just get fat again. Well, majority of people that I've like interacted with at the gyms that I go, commercial gyms and like what I stay at, like pretty much 99.9% of people are training for looks. Okay, and yeah, you're not really. Nobody's paying attention to other instances of their health, their sleep again. How do they optimize their well-being, their energy? Because, to be honest, if you're like, how do I set this? If your only goal is to work your 9 to 5, just work your life, go out, have fun, that doesn't really resonate with like having everything optimized to actually leverage that optimal energy, that optimal focus and funnel it back into your business. If you know what I mean. I think like, I get what you're trying to say, and I think that for a lot of people, it's actually it's easy for them to go to the gym and for them to just like work out and like try and look good, right? But actually going to town and actually fully taking ownership of your health and actually really like spending time within yourself to actually focus on changing your habits, changing your routine, focus on your sleep and all these things, just outside of like, because we always hear the same shit, like get 8 hours sleep a night, get 9 hours sleep a night, right? And that's stuff that you've cemented in me, right? But there's so much more to it than that. And actually, when I first started working with you, honestly, for like second week in, I was like, man, like when we did that habits call and I was going through like the list of all the started things that I actually was probably doing wrong in my life beforehand and I wasn't doing right, like that was super intimidating for me. It was mega intimidating to change all those things. And I think it's actually, the problem is because we just are not taught those things from a young age. We're not taught very good, young, stable, good habits when we are young, good routines when we are young. Because actually the world is built in a way that doesn't actually facilitate that, you know? I would love to kind of unravel what you believe are some of the foundational parts of your health. I know we've talked about the 4 pillars before, like your sleep, your body, your mind, your nutrition. But I'd like to break that down a little bit so these people can actually action this within their life. If someone's watching this right now and for the pure purpose of, I want to optimize my health, I want to biohack, because I think that's a bit of a term. What are some of the kind of fundamental things that somebody could implement if they're coming into this completely cold?
Yeah. So what you want to be looking at when you are trying to sort of optimize or biohack your way into your health or anything, you want to be pretty much making your body and mind do as you wish, like make it give you the energy and focus that you want to get, right? So whenever you're trying to do that, whenever you're trying to facilitate that, what you are looking to optimize is your hormones, right? And how you do that is by your daily habits. So pretty much, as you said before, it's something, it's really in depth what we did with the habits and with the sleep, with the everything that we did. It is pretty much you're changing your whole lifestyle, right? Around that to be able to optimize your habits in order to optimize your hormones. So to answer to your question, what you're looking to do if you're looking to optimize your health and get out of those levels of optimal health, is you want to have your hormones functioning optimally, right? And the lowest hanging fruits is to look to optimize your circadian clock, your circadian rhythm. Because every process in your body is circadian. Every hormone that your body is releasing, every process that you can think of is circadian, okay? So this is, there are many, many ways to optimize your circadian clock. The most important ways are by viewing sunlight, exercising, eating, and controlling your daily temperature deviations. I think that's getting a bit too technical here.
No, I don't think so. So like just for people who are like hearing circadian rhythm, they're like, what on earth is that? What actually is your circadian rhythm? So
your circadian rhythm, basically the words circa is around, and dian means a day, so it's around a day. Everything that's around a day, that is your hormone secretion, pretty much your 2 basic hormones for wakefulness and sleep, which are your cortisol and melatonin. These 2 are pretty much, you're going to have a cortisol pulse at the same time every 24 hours. So that is circadian. So your circadian rhythm is composed by the secretion of hormones that happen at the same time. Roughly, this roughly is based on your the timing that you actually implement those habits, and the time that you eat your meals, the time that you go to bed, the time that you view sunlight, the time that you exercise, if you do cold showers in the morning. So your temperature also has a circadian component to it. So for example, it's gonna have you're gonna have a peak somewhere around the day, and around about 2 to 3 hours before you wake up, you're gonna have your lowest temperature, which is the lowest point of your temperature that your body is going to be throughout the whole 24-hour cycle. So circadian clock is every hormone, every hormone and every process that is being secreted and produced by your body in that 24-hour cycle. And yeah.
But what does that actually mean in a practical sense? So like, if I was, and I know this because we've done it, but if I was, as a complete stranger, going to try and balance my hormones and make sure that my hormones were in an optimal state.
Yeah.
What are maybe like 3 core things that I could do to just ensure that I'm doing the bare minimum?
Yeah. So have the same sleep and wake up times. View sunlight at the same time every day, preferably upon waking up in the first 30 minutes. Have same meal times every day, and most specifically breakfast and dinner times. This is absolutely crucial. And make sure that you are actually understanding that 24-hour temperature deviation of your body, meaning that your temperature is going to hit the peak at around 4 to 6 p.m. So anything that you do after that peak that elevates your body's temperature is going to making your body think that it's still early in the day. So your sleep is not going to be optimal if you're looking to sleep at like 11 or 10 or whatever. If you're looking to have an optimal and normal sleeping schedule.
Do you think that's difficult though because something that I personally struggled with was, I've always really enjoyed being in a very set routine and sticking to the same routine every day. I do find naturally that I perform at my peak when I'm going for a same routine every day. But for example, there are people in the world like my partner Becky, right, that doesn't actually enjoy having a set routine every single day, right? And if anything, actually, and she won't mind me saying, she rejects that concept of having to have this set routine. Do you think there is merit in that concept of wanting diversity and always having a kind of a different changing routine every day? Or do you think that fundamentally goes against what we actually need as human beings? And if so, why? Like, why is it that we have to stick to a routine to be at an optimal state? You know, why can't we be more fluid and flexible within our routines and our habits?
Yeah, so essentially you have to differentiate the things that make you happy as a person and the things that actually make your body happy, right? So if we're speaking about a biological standpoint, your body absolutely desires routines, okay? You cannot just YOLO your day and be optimized at the same time, okay? Now, if that makes you absolutely depressed or miserable, you don't have to do it, because even though you're going to be your hormones are going to be optimized, you're going to be subconsciously not feeling at your best. So I think it's best to kind of balance things out in the best way possible. For example, if you like going out once a week, so be it. Not like now with the technology and like with lights, with the clubs, we have you have access to lighting and pleasure and clubbing and anything that you can think of 24/7. So you have access to any form of going out, pretty much, like every other human being. But yeah, you cannot be a robot for 24/7 every day of the week. Even though your body would absolutely love that, because every one of your hormones are going to be operating at the peak of their capabilities, but you are not going to be, because the things that you desire to do, for example, go out for a steak, go out like for a drink, you're not going to be doing that. So that may be, break off the balance.
Finding that balance, yeah. Which a lot of people don't have on the opposite sense as well.
Yeah.
Like, especially of like young guys who are kind of, most people watching this are probably young men at large in the audience, right? And a lot of people that are actually still going out clubbing every single weekend and then like feeling that pain on Sundays, Mondays and Tuesdays. I think I asked you this before and I found it really interesting. Like, if let's say you're going out every single weekend, like, and people watching this are still going out every single weekend, how long does it actually set your body back for?
Yeah, so every weekend, are we saying like 2 days a week?
No, I'm saying like a Saturday night blowout. Like, I think a lot of people do that. I mean, I did that up until about 4 years ago when I started the company, when I was going out every Saturday night. I don't know if we do that a lot in England, yeah.
That depends on a lot of factors, okay? So it depends on what time do you go. Will you go to bed? Are you going to be like drinking a lot of alcohol? Many variables to this, but let's say that if you have a consistent sleep and wake up time for like the majority of the week, 6 days a week, and you have one night in which you're actually, let's say if you're normally sleeping at 11 or 10, and that night you sleep at 4 or 3 a.m., and you sleep in for like the next, like for 3 or 4 extra hours. Now, for one day, that's not going to be a huge issue. But if that continues for the next 2 or 3, more than 2 days, you're gonna be like getting off the road, getting off track. Your circadian clock is gonna be like out of whack, starting to become out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
So there are ways in which you can actually control that and not go all out one day of the week, because that probably is going to be leading to you feeling groggy all day the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be resulting in you actually having to stay up later if you're trying to catch up on work, and you're going to be entering a perpetual cycle. So it's good to have some balance and be aware of, okay, I'm going to be doing this. What is the effect? I know it's kind of not nerdy or crazy to think about it this way and so analytical, but if you're trying, if that is your goal, it's good to be aware of, okay, what am I doing today? What are the effects of the aftermath, pretty much, of what I'm going to do?
Is this something, let's say people, it's like a non-negotiable for them. They're like, I know like 1 day a week, I'm going to be drinking pretty heavily. Is there something that person can do to actually counteract the negatives? Of course, you're never going to reverse that, but is there something that you could do, like a preparation, I know a lot of people like have their own hacks in the morning. Oh, they swear that this cures a hangover and X, Y, Z does. Like, is there anything you experience like professionally that you can actually do to curb that hangover and ensure it doesn't affect the business?
So I had to break it to you, but I don't drink. I drink only on rare occasions.
Okay.
And not because I'm like a super health guy and like.
You are a super health guy.
No, but not because of that. Because I just don't like alcohol. I would like a beer with my steak here and there.
Okay.
That's cool. But if you were to if you were to want to know how to prevent your hangover, probably the best bet is to stick to clean alcohols first of all. And I'm not condoning the consumption of any alcohol. It's like it's terrible for your health. It's really stressful to your liver, and yeah. But if you were to consume, like many people are, I would stick to like gin, biodynamic organic wine, preferably red, or Negronis, stuff like that. Clean alcohols. And then would make sure to stay hydrated before, and while, and after drinking, probably with remineralized high mineral water. Then I would drink, upon waking up, I would hydrate as much as possible. Probably use activated charcoal with that. That's absolutely phenomenal, activated charcoal, especially to cure hangovers. Also ginger, turmeric. Then preferably do something that will make you sweat a lot. That is a sauna or a really hot shower. And yeah, I think that you would be really good with that.
Interesting.
But you need to stay hydrated a lot, like really, really hydrated. Because the effects that you're experiencing the day after, like the hangover, is mostly due to you being dehydrated, right?
Yeah, fine.
So if you find ways to mitigate that, and that, I mean, like while you're drinking, keep your bottle of water with you before you go out. Like before you go to sleep, that's a really big one. You need to drink a lot of water. Yeah, what I already said.
Interesting. Okay, cool, nice. I think, and you mentioned like activate charcoal, turmeric, and so on. And I think one thing that we did a lot of work on was supplementation, and of course, within that, I think a lot of people presume that there's like, I think a lot of people thinking, and I know that you personally don't like the term biohacking. I think you kind of eye roll it a little bit at that, because I think it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. But I think a lot of people think like supplementation is like the final piece in the puzzle that they don't have, because it's easier to do to put a pill in your mouth than it is to fix your nutrition or fix your sleep routine or fix your fitness regime, whatever that may be. But from your experience, are there any kind of supplements that you have taken that have really helped you when it comes to your business focus, or do you really think that an investment in your nutrition is worth tenfold, even considering supplementation?
That's a really interesting question, because most of the time, really most of the 95% of the time, people will ask, what should I take to increase my focus? What should I take? What should I do? What should I take? What should I ingest, right? Now, personally, for me, I've always used like here and there adaptogens, creatine, fish oils, but these will actually do less than you think that they will do. And it's mostly because if you tackle those fundamentals, which is your sleep, if you make sure that your habits are on point, and by habits I mean like getting your sunlight in, that's pretty much the most important one, and other small things that you can do like exercising at the right time, eating at the right time. Like most of your concerns and what should I take to increase my focus are going to be like out of the picture once you do all that correctly, and it's also free, right? So making sure that what you eat is in accordance to your microbiome, making sure that you are sleeping, you're getting in quality and quantity of sleep, and making sure that you're doing things that will support your so-called circadian clock, which is working out at the right times, eating at the right times, and getting sunlight. I think that's it.
Getting sunlight is something that you always talk to me a lot about, and I think it's actually really quite difficult sometimes because you can wake up in the morning and if you've got a really stressful day and you've got lots of stuff that are going on, like sometimes the only sunlight I'm getting is when I'm walking from the car to the gym, right? The first thing in the morning, right? But it's something that you talk about an awful lot. And I wonder if you can elaborate on that a little bit, because I think a lot of people will spend, especially when you're like starting off with a business, spend a lot of time inside on your laptop just working and like not getting out. And I think a lot of people experience, especially at this time of the year in the UK especially, seasonal depression. And it gets very dark. You wake up, it's dark. You finish work, it's dark. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that. It's actually something that I struggle with myself, which is why I'm going to Cape Town in January, because I just want to be in a different climate in that time of year. What is it about sunlight that is so important to your overall health?
Okay, so how much in depth you want me to dive into this?
Well, specifically for somebody that is, let's say, working from home.
Okay. So sunlight is the king of optimizing your hormones and your temperature. Is the biggest external cue for your body to know what time of the day it is. Okay, so at no point in the day does your body know what time of the day it is. Okay, you might look at your watch and see, okay, it's that time, but your body does not know. The only way in which your body does know what time it is by viewing sunlight and doing all the other things that I already mentioned before. And actually, the reason why people are getting this seasonal depression is because of their hormones are not in check, right? Dopamine, this is a neuromodulator, testosterone and estrogen. Now, whenever you're exposing your eyes to sunlight, dopamine levels are increased. And whenever dopamine levels are increased, there are some parts in the brain that get stimulated by this dopamine increase that also stimulate release of testosterone and estrogen production. So, and again, dopamine is misunderstood as a reward and addiction neurotransmitter, but in reality is a reward, motivation, and craving neurotransmitter. So this is going to be really, really key for your happiness, your overall well-being, and the same with testosterone, especially if you're a male. It's going to be making you competitive, like you have the will to do something, motivated. So this is why people that experience what is so-called seasonal depression. Now, apart from optimizing your dopamine levels, your testosterone, estrogen levels, your sex hormones, pretty much, sunlight is really, and light in general, is really crucial for telling your body what time of the day it is, and therefore letting it know what time it should actually produce these hormones for you to be able to be awake when you should be, and be asleep when you should be. So that is cortisol and melatonin again. So that particularly helpful for that is blue light, the type of light that everyone says that you should avoid. That is not true in the morning especially. You need a lot of bright light. So if you cannot get exposed to sunlight, which is the thing that it should be the first on your list, like make sure to get exposed to at least 1 hour of sunlight in the day, and that's not in traffic. So if it's absolutely impossible for you to do, let's say you're waking up at a time in which it's absolutely dark outside, so what you want to do is have lights like this in front of you, have lights like this in front of you. So whenever you're working, have ring lights or lights like this, LED kind of lights that emit a lot of blue light. These lights are emitting a lot of blue light, and it's really helpful to help sync your circadian clock and help keep you awake most of all. And Now, some other things about sunlight is that whenever you're exposing your skin, your eyes to sunlight, serotonin production is getting increased as well, which is something that makes you happier and more relaxed and calmer and more content. And also, your body converts serotonin to melatonin, so that also is an extra for boosting your sleep and helping you stay asleep and being more optimal with your sleep. But the biggest thing is that sunlight is the king of optimizing your hormones, okay? And if your hormones are the kings of optimizing your happiness, mood, energy, if you don't have them on check, you're going to be feeling low, depressed, sad, you name it.
And it makes a lot of sense, really, because I think one thing I'm not really speak public about, but one thing I talk about behind the scenes with friends an awful lot is how, like, the human body really hasn't developed or matured for thousands of years, right? We're essentially still cavemen wrapped up in a modern world, like, really. So, and time in itself is just a construct that we have just created over a long period of time. And so it makes sense that really the only way to sync our body is through the only natural clock that we actually have, being the sun and being nature. And I think one thing that we worked on, which is something that I was just interested about and interested in when we first started, but like even beforehand, was grounding. And I'd never actually taken it serious myself. I would actually, probably like 4 years ago, if you spoke to me, I would have been one of them guys that maybe laughed at someone that was grounding, like had their socks off, and I'd be like, what's this whackhead doing? Like, why is he doing that? But there's so much science in grounding, and there's so much science in earthing, as some people would call it. And yeah, what's your opinion on earthing, grounding, and the science around that? I know you made me buy an earthing mat when we first started, so for my standing desk, which is something that I use every single day. And I've seen that, and I'm kind of. You often see that things like this, especially with earthing, I think it's actually moving into a very hot topic right now and a very trendy topic for a lot of people, but there's a lot of science behind it, right?
So there's something that is emitted by our tech, which is EMFs, electromagnetic fields, and actually these things are aiding to the static electricity that is being built up in your system, and it's causing all sorts of inflammation, all sorts of stress. And by you grounding yourself to the earth, you're going to be releasing that built up of static electricity, and therefore improving blood circulation, reducing stress. And it's overall good for both your body, like from a biological standpoint, and both your mind. So it's going to be making you more resilient, and you will find that even if you buy a grounding mat, earthing mat, whatever you call it, because it's plugged in and it simulates the similar effects that what you would have if you were to step on Earth. You will find that by doing 45 or 1 hour of grounding per day, you're going to be noticing yourself feeling significantly less stress and more contained and more resilient. And yeah, I think that's the case with you, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's been really cool. I'd be lying if I said that every single day without fail that I have put my feet on the grass. Because honestly, if you could see my garden right now, then it needs a good cut, and I'm worried I'm going to step on dog shit or something. But I use the grounding mat every single day, and I've definitely seen some. But I think one thing that's really tricky, and I think a lot of people dismiss various habits and routines and healthy habits as very quickly, in the same sense as like supplements, because you don't see, it's not like I'm standing in the earth and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, this is incredible, like I'm so focused right now, and my hormones, I can just feel this surge, like with all of these things, it's such microscopic differences in your overall health, and it kind of all compounds. And that's what I've really kind of found, because I didn't even know what I was expecting when we first started working together. And by the way, like we literally took a full top-down overhaul of basically all of my habits routine. I sit in front of red light panels every day. I take cold showers, which was extremely scary for me when I first started. Like, not even just like a 30-second. I couldn't even make it past 30 seconds before. Now I do like 5-minute cold showers and stuff, and love it, right? But all these, what I didn't know what to expect when I first started, and it's really the compound of absolutely everything that's made a really big difference.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, and I think a lot of people dismiss a lot of techniques because they don't see like these monumental differences in their life from just one small thing that they've changed, you know?
Yeah, totally. And some other small instances, which are not small, but they're not really like noticeable, is that, for example, you stop, which is huge, by the way, you stop drinking tap water, right? Which is full of pesticides, hormones, heavy metals. It could be. It's not like every tap water, like most of it. Okay, so you stop drinking tap water, and you're optimizing your water source as well. It's not like you're gonna drink that sip of water and you're gonna feel like you have the magic potion and you're gonna feel like Superman. But it's those things that slowly build up in your system, those chemicals, those endocrine disruptors, are gonna be aiding to you feeling suboptimal, aging faster. So it's more of a well-being and optimizing your hormones. Everything comes down to hormones, right? So, for example, if you sit in front of the red light panel, you're not going to be feeling like a whole new person afterwards. But it's something that builds up because your mitochondria become more efficient in doing their work. So ultimately you're going to be feeling more optimal. You're going to be having more energy, healthier skin, and more optimized circadian clock because of the red lights as well. But it's not, all of these things are not like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to feel like the surge, as you said, afterwards. So it's not like you're drinking caffeine or any type of stimulant and you feel the hype to go into your workouts, for example. It's not like you drink your coffee and after that you're buzzed to attack a work block, for example. It's not the same.
I want to touch on caffeine actually. What you just mentioned there, because it reminded me, and I think it's a big thing for a lot of people. Just before we do though, the thing you mentioned about tap water is when you recommended. I remember when you recommended for me to get like my tap water filtration system installed, like a reverse osmosis system is what it's actually called. And when you first suggested that, I was like, oh man, like this is like a £300 water system. Like, do I actually want to do this? Like, is it even something necessary? And I bought one of those TMS meters to measure the solids within my water, and it was crazy to actually test it before and afterwards. And actually, the taste of the water was a complete night and day like difference between like beforehand when I actually had my tap water. I live in Norfolk; it's a very hard water area. We got a lot of lime scale and stuff, and it was crazy when I did that taste test. And also, something that's really interesting about doing that, you recommended that I use Celtic sea salt as a remineralizer for that water. And I've noticed that I actually drink less water now. Yeah. Which is really strange. Yeah. Otherwise, I suppose I'm just better hydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want me to dive into the whole remineralizing your water?
Let's not do that. Let's not do that because I think we'll go down a rabbit hole. But I would love to talk about caffeine because there are so many people. I've got this new team member right now, Nathan. If you're watching this is for you. I got a new team member right now, and he's like, every time he jumps in a team call, I'm like, oh, hey man, how are you doing? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm good, man. I'm like on my 4th cup of coffee for the day. I'm like, mate, if you could speak to Manousos for 1 hour, he would talk you out of this. Like, but so many people do this, right? Connor, who used to be in my team, and now he's like, if you met Connor, he's a big guy. He's a unit, really into his health, right? Ex-army, ex-military guy. And Connor used to be an absolute caffeine fiend. He now actually is kind of ridded to caffeine. We had the conversation about limiting caffeine before 2 hours after waking up and so on. But I'd like to get kind of your take on caffeine, because I think a lot of people over-abuse caffeine, especially in the entrepreneurial space, because their bodies are so dependent on it as a stimulant to keep them focused. So what are some of your major rules when it comes to caffeine use? Because I know you're not completely anti getting rid of caffeine altogether, are you? So it'd be interesting for you to share that opinion.
Yeah, so essentially what caffeine does, to start off with that, to give you a bit more context, and I talk about this a lot, but let me dive into this a bit. So caffeine will act on your adenosine receptors in your brain. Adenosine is a compound that is a chemical that your body needs, and it builds up in your system the longer that you're awake, and it signals the sleepiness effect that you feel asleep. If you're like, the longer you stay awake, the more adenosine you're going to have building up in your system. So what caffeine does is it goes and binds to those adenosine receptors in your brain, and it clears the effect of you feeling tired and sleepy. So that's what it does pretty much. It also stimulates increased production of adrenaline, dopamine, etc., etc. And usually what happens with people when they get that caffeine tolerance is that they start consuming more and more caffeine. And what happens is that their dopamine stores, that source of dopamine is getting depleted. So in order for you to feel the amazing effects of coffee and feeling as great as when you first started drinking coffee, you need to drink more and more coffee, which is going to be ending in you drinking 4, 5, 6, 7 cups of coffee, and obviously impacting your sleep most of the times. And as a result of that, the next day you're going to be feeling like you absolutely cannot go about your day without having coffee. So it's again, it's a rabbit hole. The rules of caffeine is that you absolutely want to delay your caffeine intake for 90 minutes after waking up. Should I explain about why? Or
yeah, that'd be good to know. Yeah.
Okay, so essentially, in your first 2 hours or 90 minutes after waking up, you have that initial cortisol pulse, which happens and is the natural way for your body to get out of that hibernation mode at night. And if you're getting light in your eyes, particularly sunlight or any type of really bright light, it's going to signal to your body to start like getting into that cortisol pulse. So it's your body's natural way of waking you up and giving you that hit of energy. So that tends to peak at around 90 minutes after you wake up. Now, if you go ahead and drink coffee, like most people do, like wake up, go to the kitchen, make you a coffee and start working, what's that going to be doing is that it's going to pushing that cortisol pulse, and you're going to be reaching that peak even sooner. And what's going to happen next is that when the caffeine wears off your system, fewer amounts of adenosine will have a really bigger effect on you, how tired you feel. And as a result of that, you will feel really groggy. You will have that afternoon crash, that caffeine crash. That's what it's called. And you will have the need to drink even more coffee. So if you want to diminish that need of having to drink a lot of coffee, if you only do this, if you delay your caffeine intake for 90 minutes after waking up or 2 hours, you're gonna be feeling significantly more energized. And by energized, I mean your energy levels are gonna be more consistent. You're gonna be able to maintain those energy levels for longer without having that crash, and you most probably will not have the need to drink that much coffee to stay on that energy and maintain that energy.
Interesting. So if people are binging coffee kind of throughout the day at the moment, number one, what is the last time in the day that they really should drink a cup of coffee? And if they want to, because a lot of people say for some people and this probably isn't the case, it probably is the coffee, but some people say I just like the concept of me getting up and going and making a drink and having something. Is there something that somebody can replace their coffee for that would be more healthy for them? So yeah, 2 questions. Kind of how late in the day, and then what can somebody replace coffee with?
First of all, the overall lifetime of caffeine in your bloodstream is about 12 to 14 hours. Mm. So, and again, there are some people, and that's including my partner Sophia there, that can drink a cup of coffee and can go to sleep after 5 minutes. Okay. Mm-hmm. That don't have that.
That must drive you crazy. I can imagine if I did that, I'd be hitting up my phone every.
Yeah. If I drink coffee closer to 10 hours before bed, I'm not gonna be able to fall asleep. I don't know if that's a placebo thing. I don't know if that's how I work, how my body works. I don't know, but this is how it is. So there are these people that adenosine receptor binding is not really affected, for them. They can have no troubles, and I'm sure you have met one of those people before, going to sleep after 30 minutes. But the general rule of thumb is no coffee, no caffeine after at that 12 to 10 hour period before bed. So limit your coffee consumption for early in the day, 2 hours after waking up, and until afternoon, maybe early afternoon. So that would be it. And some other healthy alternatives to coffee can be green tea, can be green tea. This is what I prefer as opposed to drinking coffee is green tea.
Yeah.
Or black tea.
Interesting. Actually, yeah, I drink green tea as well. It's got caffeine in it still, though, doesn't it? But does it negligible amount or does it not?
Yeah, it has caffeine, but in nowhere near as a cup of coffee would.
Fine. Interesting. I actually put a post out on my Instagram yesterday because I wanted to let people know that we were going to be doing this chat, and I gave people the opportunity to ask some questions. So I think it would be cool to do a bit of a Q&A, if you're down for that. I haven't prepared any specific questions, but I think we can just pick some out, and then it'd be cool for people to have their questions answered. Julie here said, talk about keto. And I think actually keto is something that people talk about a fair bit in business, and so. What is? Let's not specifically go down a rabbit hole of what keto necessarily is, but is it a fad? Is it good for you? Is it worth people considering? Yeah. What's your opinion on keto?
So, essentially, you will know the idea behind keto, what keto is, and as you told me, that we don't have the need to go deep into keto, but. The only way it could be feasible, it could be... Actually, let me explain a bit. So, in order for you to get into actual ketosis, it will take about 3-4 days, and that period will suck because your brain will not use ketones for energy.
What are you doing? Are you stripping carbs from your diet?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
You're stripping carbs, and as a result of that, your brain will not use glucose. It will tap into the fat stores and will use something called ketones. So, in the meantime, before you actually tap into that state of ketosis, it's pretty much going to be difficult. You're not going to be feeling that high focus and alertness because ketones are a really good source of energy for your brain, right? And you're feeling amazing when on keto, but you have one day of high carbs and you're out of keto. You're out of ketosis, and that breaks out the cycle. But the good thing about keto is, and the only way I could see for myself being feasible to business, for example, is having keto kind of meals early in the day, like for your breakfast or second meal of the day, in which you want to be doing work afterwards. And we have been talking about this a lot, I think, is having keto kind meals, like high fat, high protein meals in the morning, like your first 2 meals of the day. And this is because typically high fat, high protein food sources like red meats, for example, are high in tyrosine. Okay, and tyrosine is a precursor to dopamine. Dopamine is being related to you feeling alert and focused, and this is really, really... And also carbs have a sedative effect, so getting those keto-type meals early in the day is going to be beneficial for your focus and alertness, and you're going to be combining that keto idea without actually getting into ketosis, because that's another... that's a whole nother topic, there's a whole another world. But you can actually leverage that idea of keto kind of meals in the morning, and then have your high carb meals later in the day.
So I know that's something that we've implemented in my diet, and I've found that I have so much more energy in not eating carbs for breakfast. Definitely. Do you think it's important to avoid carbs altogether when it comes to breakfast for the majority of people?
So what's going to happen whenever you're having breakfast with high carbs is that most complex carbs are high in tryptophan, and tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin. Now, this is why I said that carbs will make you more relaxed and calm, and they taste amazing indeed, but they have that sedative effect, which is something that you want and is going to be helpful for you if it's later in the day, before you go to bed, for example. Not right before you go to bed, but in your dinner, if it's full of carbs, it's going to be helpful for your sleep. So, if you're looking to get that high energy focused state early in the day, if you're working that time, it's best not to have high amounts of carbs. You can have some carbs, but how your body reacts to having that a high carb meal is based on what I just explained to you, the sedative effect of carbs. So if you're looking to increase your focus and alertness and be able to get into that deep work tunnel state, you should. It could be a good idea to limit carbs in the morning and let your carbs for later in the day, in which you're going to be winding down anyways.
Is it a specific time in the morning that you should eat that first meal? Is there an optimal time for you to eat breakfast for the majority of people?
Now, there's another topic. That's a good question because that opens a whole nother topic, and that's the idea of fasting, intermittent fasting, whatever you call it. It's a good thing to delay your breakfast for 4 to 5 hours, okay? Now, fasting and intermittent fasting, however you name it, if you do that, that fasted state is going to be, first of all, inducing autophagy, which is helpful for your mitochondria, which is helpful for your cells. What that means is that old and weak cells die and your body replaces them with new cells and young. So that's good for like overall health and longevity. Growth hormone is actually increased if you're doing fasting. And the most key part is that your brain, whenever you're fasted, it is related to being awake and creative because your brain has to find creative ways to survive and collect food, right? So whenever you're fasted, it's most likely going to be that you're going to be experiencing the most productive hours of work in your day because your body doesn't have to allocate energy, and that by allocate energy, I mean because blood derived from your brain, from other parts of your body to go to your digestive tract in order to digest food, and that requires energy, of course. That's going to be making you feeling less energetic. But whenever your body is not dealing with food and you have enough blood running to your brain, you're more alert, more focused, and more energetic. So that helps. So 4 or 5 hours, I would say that's what I do.
4 or 5 hours after waking up?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So you're waking up at 6, like it's still okay to eat at what? 7, 8, 9, like 10 o'clock? Something like that? 10, 11?
I mean, if you cannot think about anything else than food at that time, it's probably not good for your focus because you cannot focus in the first place. But the best way to find this out is by experimenting, and I think that's the safest bet. Like you can experiment with 4 hours and then like maybe push it to 5 hours, but see what's best for you. Because if you're that hungry in the morning, which being hungry in the morning is a good thing, is a sign of healthy metabolism. But if the only thing that's in your mind is food, and you cannot focus on the task at hand, that's no use, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to come back to a few of these, but like just off the back of, because we're talking about lots of the things we've actually already spoken about. But I want to, we've already spoken about fasting, keto, and so on and so forth. And it kind of made me think, like, and I've mentioned this a few times, a lot of buzzwords around this industry as a whole. Are there any principles or habits or fads, I should actually say, that you believe that surround the space that a lot of people actually implement in their life that are actually just not fundamentally true? So things that, for example, I know NoFap is a really big thing, right? Is there anything alike to that springs to your mind that is actually in a whole bunch of nonsense, but other people actually believe it to be something that genuinely helps them?
Something that I think is kind of, well, it's not that it's not true, but it's not that what you should be focused on, and this is what I was doing for years myself, is focusing on calories in, calories out, if it fits my macros, and like that. And that comes back to what we were saying, that's focused solely on the looks, right? Now, yes, calories in versus calories out. It's the big equation that matters the most. Like, if you want to look a certain way, you can just manipulate the calories that you're getting and the calories that you're burning, and making sure that you are in a caloric deficit or in a caloric surplus. So the thing with that is that whenever you're paying attention to how much protein and carbs and fats you were eating, you're most likely not going to be paying attention to how nutrient dense are those foods. And generally, as we said, how you should be approaching health whenever you're trying to get into that high performer state is really, really different as opposed to if you're trying to train or be a bodybuilder, for example. Because a big thing that is being left out the corner is the bacteria in your gut, okay? And you're not going to be taking care of that if the only thing that you're considering of is calories in, calories out. Because I remember myself doing this for the longest time, eating ice cream with like whey protein, like to fit the macros for the day. But what was the result of that? Me feeling bloated and lethargic afterwards because of the huge blood sugar spike and all the things that you now know. But yeah, so if you're not eating, if you're not taking care of those small and neglected parts, which is the good and bad bacteria in your gut, yes, you can look good, you can look amazing, but you can feel like crap at the same time. So,
yeah, interesting. You guys should take a Viome test. Is it Viome, the test, the gut test, the microbiome?
There are many brands from Omnos, Viome.
Yeah, so take a microbiome test to actually just understand like your gut's health, and you'll be able to actually see, which is really interesting, like some of the ingredients that you might be eating every single day that is actually your gut isn't reacting very well to. And of course your gut has a very strong relationship with your brain, and so that could really be giving you, a lot of people I know, like when I speak to, what's mentioned on here quite a few times is like how to deal with brain fog, right? And a lot of people deal with brain fog, and actually the majority of cases and a lot of things that we've spoken about is actually your diet is going to have a massive impact on your ability to stay focused and gain brain fog. And I realize that one of the things that my gut doesn't agree with, or has maybe an intolerance to, is tomatoes, which is kind of crazy because tomatoes are in like everything, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've been quite resistant to to cutting tomatoes out. I mean, in fact, I actually had spaghetti with like a tomato ragu for lunch today. So, but I'm still functioning right this moment, right? But I think like it's really important for you to at least understand and be mindful of the foods that you might be necessarily intolerant of, and so on. But talking of brain fog, is there something that people can do in general to curb brain fog?
Yeah, many things. And sleep, like particularly optimizing your sleep will make sure that you are getting in enough REM sleep as well. So REM sleep is particularly important for your cognitive performance, for your it's responsible for solidifying your memories, your working and storing memory, your ability to focus and conduct and work with your brain, pretty much work with your mind. If you're not getting enough good quality sleep, and this is resulting that you're not getting good enough REM sleep, this is going to be resulting in you feeling like foggy in your head, right? That's called brain fog. Another thing is your diet. The biggest thing of mitigating brain fog is not eating inflammatory foods. And there are two ways of finding out like that. The one is more like intuitive way, and the other one is more like tangible way. So the more intuitive way is actually keeping an eye out for inflammatory markers, and this is bloating, gassiness, breaking out. Like for example, if you eat something and like the day after you're like breaking out, that's an inflammatory response. So if you eat something and that something is for most people is like rye, pasta, bread. Most people are intolerant to gluten or lactose intolerant. So the one way you can go about this is after you eat your meal, ask yourself how you're feeling, if you notice those symptoms of inflammation. And the other way is, as Jordan said before, is by taking an accredited gut microbiome test, which is going to be giving you a good idea of this is inflammatory, this is considered to be my superfood, because there are foods and ingredients that will help the bad guys, the bad bacteria in your gut, and there are foods that will help the good bacteria in your gut. You want to feed the good ones, you don't want to feed the bad ones. So, and inflammation is the biggest cause of most chronic diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or arthritis. Most of them are due to inflammation, chronic inflammation, most of them. And most people are eating stuff that they are inflammatory to them and don't have an idea or do not pay attention to those symptoms of gassiness, bloatedness.
Are there any foods that you consider cognitive enhancers that people should be eating more of?
Yes. These foods are particularly fatty fish, and this is omega-3s. Okay, now this has been really clear to us now based on many studies that if you eat sufficient amounts of omega-3s, they're like one of the most powerful antidepressants, and for the second, they are really helping you as a cognitive booster. So fatty fish, salmon, sardines, salmon, mostly wild caught salmon, And omega-3s, to cut it short. Some other foods, I would say that is a supplement that like the best supplement, the cheapest supplement, the most effective one on like enhancing your cognition is actually creatine monohydrate. Yeah, that's a good cognitive booster as well. Well, that could be considered as food because you can find it in like quite good amounts in red meats. But however, in order for you to get the recommended daily dosage of you have to like eat a cow.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Creatine's something that stacks, isn't it? I remember creatine's like a very popular bodybuilding supplement as well. Yeah. I think a lot of people will stack creatine at the start and have 10 grams a day or whatever of creatine or 20 grams a day, and I think that's something that a lot of people use, and it actually makes you stronger over a period of time as well, doesn't it? Is that a myth?
So that stacking thing, that's not backed up by science. That's a total marketing thing that you do.
Interesting.
In order for you to like and the run out of creatine and like you gotta buy a new one. So creatine, first of all, you're not going to be drinking creatine and you're going to go to the gym and feeling like the Hulk. It's something that builds up in your system, right? So the effects of creatine is that it helps your body produce more ATP, which is the energy currency of every one of your cells. So it's making you produce more work, more load, be more energetic, and be more efficient in the gym and your workouts. But also helps your brain because it makes your metabolism work more efficient, more efficiently. It helps your brain work better as well. So it's a cognitive enhancer as well. So it's one of the cheapest and most effective supplements, one of the most researched supplements out there. And it really works. It's one of the supplements that really do something for you.
That's awesome. I actually haven't been taking creatine. Like, I know we added it to our list, but I haven't actually been taking creatine. Which I should. It's one of those things. It's a very hard thing. Actually, one final thing I'd love to touch on, because I know this has been going on for a while. But one final thing I want to touch on, actually, on that note, I haven't taken creatine. I haven't added it because I've actually just forgotten or struggled to like implement that habit. I think a lot of people struggle to implement habits. I think a lot of people will watch this and be like, "Oh wow, amazing! Well, I'm gonna stop doing this. I'm gonna stop drinking coffee when I first wake up in the morning. I'm gonna start getting sunlight in the morning. I'm gonna start grounding, right?" And it's very, very easy to say I'm gonna do something, and very easy to do that for a couple of days, but also very difficult to actually do that over a period of time. What do you think are some of the most effective ways that anybody can implement a new habit in their life?
Now, this can be really individual. For myself, for example, I can go cold turkey with anything that I do and like form 20 new habits in a day, like no problem. For other people, it could be a good idea for them to start adding new things like once at a time, and once that habit has been established, then add a new thing. Like, for example, what we did. We didn't go full hog from the week one. We started adding a few variables at a time because, for one thing, if you add a bunch of stuff to your daily routine, if you change your lifestyle completely, it will seem as it is not attainable and not
sustainable.
Not sustainable. It will seem like it is not sustainable. Because you're changing completely from A to B, and for second, you're not going to be staying on it. So if you're going to do something, if you don't do it, if you only say that you're going to be doing it, it's not effective, of course, obviously. So for some people, it's adding a few variables at a time, starting with keeping it super simple, attacking the lowest hanging fruits of your health, of anything that it is that you want to implement in your lifestyle, in your current daily routine. But since we were talking about health optimization, that I think it's a good idea to talk about this aspect. So, for example, if you consider of adding some extra things from the things that we are discussing at the moment, for example, delaying your caffeine intake for 90 minutes and then getting sunlight in your eyes, that could be enough for one person. That could be like really easy and attainable and sustainable for another person. It's really individual. So it's best that you start with the things that you know for a fact that you can do and you can stick to, and then once you're sure, start adding more stuff and more stuff. But the things that play matter are the lowest hanging fruits. For example, your sleep, or the things that optimize your hormone functions.
It's easy to implement one habit and then it trigger other habits. I think like if you start going to the gym, you're more likely to start eating better as well, because you're conscious that you don't want to undo your doings in the gym by eating shit, right? Or if you spend a lot of time on getting out in the sun, you're probably going to spend more time going out walking and grounding and so on. So I think it's easy when you start, and I think just the most important thing is actually just getting started. One thing that I've always preached about, and one thing I think is very, very important, and something that I prioritize before starting my company, is that I truly believe that if you yourself want to be a successful person, regardless of whatever success means to you, whether that's monetary, whether that's family, whatever that is, then you yourself have to be a success first before anything you touch can be successful. If you yourself are not a success, then you're going to be miserable by the time you achieve whatever goal that you've convinced yourself you want to achieve. You can make £1 million and in your business, but if you're a fat slob and you're unhappy within yourself, and you are miserable within yourself, and your mental health isn't in check, then you're going to be no further ahead than you were when you started your business, because you've convinced yourself that it's this kind of superficial goal that is actually going to make you happy. And I think it's really, really important that people understand that your health and your self-optimization has to be the number one priority in your entire life, because anything else that you're trying to achieve, you'll just be hindered and limited, and it's just not going to work as anywhere near as efficiently as it could do. And I think that especially young men and women at the moment who are sucked into this world of kind of online business, like most people are who are watching this, I think lots of those people are at danger at being very neglectful on their health, and putting their business first before everything else. Let me get my business going, and then I'm going to focus on my health. And I think that's a very dangerous position for people to be in, and that's why we started working together, because I've gone into this crazy growth period coming through the last 12 months, and it's always been a number one priority for me to be focusing on my health and be mindful of my health. But I found myself slipping. And I think sometimes it's very important, it's very beneficial, especially if you're a high-performing person or you're busy in your life, and I'm running a team and I'm scaling a company. Sometimes you need that external help, like when I came to you, to say, do you know what, have somebody else out there as a beacon of kind of extra support to guide you through a process when you don't actually have the time to be putting everything into play yourself. So, man, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a great conversation.
It's my pleasure, always. I love doing this. I love talking about this stuff, and I even love more being here and chatting with you. It's been an honor, really.
Nice,
Appreciate it, man.
Love it. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then I'm gonna chuck some of Manusos's details, pages in the description. If people want to follow you, where would be like the best platforms for them to come check you out on?
I think Instagram should be the best, the one that I'm on most frequently on, and also my YouTube, since I'm like really consistent with like uploading new valuable content on there weekly. So I think those two should work best. Yeah.
Nice. Love it. What's up, guys? All right. That's it. And hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.